Hello guys, what is up? Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm gonna share with you guys just some photography mistakes for beginners, as well as things that I have learned since I have been working in the studio. I'm Alexandra Grua. In this channel I talk about photography tips, lighting techniques and picture editing. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please make sure that you go ahead and subscribe. And thank you guys, you are already more than 200. I appreciate it very much. Before starting, I'll just say, if you guys go to the studio and are going to shoot with the strobe lights, shoot only in manual mode and custom white balance. You guys might know that white balance is a neutral color as seen by camera, and do not let your camera choose the settings for you. So, the first mistake. Do not plan a photo shoot beforehand. When you guys go to the studio, you must know what exactly you want to shoot. Don't ignore preparation to the photo shoot, it's very important. Create a mood board and show it to your team, even if your team is just only one model. I always put on mood board such photos as I like by color, I like by light, I like by clothes, I like by makeup and post-production if needed. You must clearly represent the idea of the shoot. Think of the clothes of the model, think of the poses of the model, think over the makeup, over the background which you are shooting on. It'll be much easier this way if you have the idea of shooting. When we know the direction to move, the result will be predictable and your team will like it. To shoot with many light sources. Some newbie photographers come to the studio and try to create complex lighting diagrams which they saw on the internet. Using many light sources at one time needs practice, so make it simple. Just start with one studio light. Take a softbox or an octobox modifiers and shoot with them. They're soft lights, they suit any person and subject what angle of light you are using. When you will take just one light source, you will see how the photo changes, how the lighting changing. You can analyze in the picture. Therefore, I'm just going to repeat it. Start with one light source, maybe with a reflector, and then later, when you will know what's happening with the light in the studio, you will add other light sources. Learn how to work only with one light when you're just starting out. The third mistake, it's underexposure and overexposure. Underexposure means that the exposure on the image is too dark. Overexposure means that the exposure of the image is too light. Just choose correct exposure. This is a very large topic and I will not go into the details of the overexposure and underexposure now, because there are some reservations and some expectations that needs a separate video. The next mistake, fill light is too bright. When I was getting started work with the studio lights, I had the same problem. What is the fill light for? To add some information to the shadows. Right? To add some light. Beginners photographers often add fill light high power. What's happened? The photo becomes flattened. What happens when our photo is flat? We are losing any volumes. The photo becomes boring and uninteresting. Therefore, it's necessary to adjust the power of the light. You don't want to be a person who is making the next mistake. Do not shoot from different angles. Some beginners photographers don't shoot from different angles. And what I mean by that? Just try to shoot from different shooting points and try to choose different angles. If you have a fixed focal length, just come closer to a model or move back for 2 or 3 steps. Thus your photos will turn out to be dynamic. Take a close-up photo of the face. Then you show the details, for example, lips or eyes. When I was starting photography, a knowledgeable photographer gave me advice to answer on 3 questions. Who, where, and what is he or she doing? This means you need to show a person what is he doing and where you are shooting in, what place. Therefore, guys, don't afraid to experiment, move your model and move yourself too. The next mistake is shooting the studio with multiple light sources for beginners. When you're just starting out, it's very difficult to figure out how to combine multiple studio flashes at once. Newbie photographers want to try everything and want to shoot everything. Hello, I was there. And when we find some interesting or creative lighting diagram in internet, we want to repeat it. But when you're just starting out, please take 2, 3 lighting source and just make it simple. I want to share with you guys my technique, how I set up the light and how I don't screw up. I make my lighting diagrams in layers. First, I tune my key light strobe flash. Other light sources are turned off at this time. After, when I'm happy with my key light, I turn off this main light source. Next, I start to tune other light sources one by one. The point is that I set up one light source at one time. When I finished with it, I also tune off that light source and set up the next one. The idea is to see how one light source affects to my image, no matter is key light, fill light, background light, etc. I hope I clearly explain it, just guys analyzing how the picture changes. And then when you set up all the light and strobes separately, turn on the lights together and enjoy! White balance mistakes. I know there are just millions of white balance photos on YouTube, but I just want to tell you guys my mistake which I had when I just started out. Let's imagine a situation when newbie photographers come to a studio in the afternoon. For example, the studio has large windows. The exposure of the room is very bright, and then you start working with the studio strobes and did not check with exposure in your room. And what's going on? The natural light hits to a camera sensor and adds to the exposure. So guys, I think you get the point. What do we need to do first? You just need to take a test photo without strobe light. Just make sure when you set up your camera there's no ambient light or natural light does not affect to your photo. How can you check it? Once you set up your camera for the studio lighted, take a test photo without strobes light. Your photo needs to be completely dark, thus you understand that natural light or ambient light does not add to your scheme. So just take the first test shoot. Another mistake is do not do backup. Everything should be clear here. When you come after your shooting, just make copies of all files. Ideally, back up all files to the cloud and also to your hard drive. Thus, you will be sure that your photos do not lose if something happens with your computer or with your CD card. I always do this now since my hard drive was broken and I lost all my photos for last 5 years. It's crazy. The next mistake, key light and fill light is the same power. Frankly speaking, I can take hours about the mistakes of working with light. This is a common mistake I see with all newbie photographers. The fill light can be 2 stops lower than the fill light. Of course, you can break the rules, but if you're just starting out, please know you don't need to make the same power these 2 lights. You will lose all the volume in the picture. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments box below. The next video will be about beauty photography. I'll show you my backstage and I'll tell you how I got the shot. Please subscribe to my channel if you don't want to miss it. I'll see you next.